This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Jed's Barber Shop. With 3 locations now, you have no reason to not always look your best. Go get a haircut, a beard trim, or even a straight razor shave. Jed's Barber Shop is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday 9 to 7, and Sunday 12 to 5. They have a location downtown at 212 South, 700 East, and in Sugarhouse at 2153 East, 2100 South. They just opened up a 3rd location at 167 East, 900 South, right next to Randy's Records. No appointment is necessary. Head on over to jedsbarbershop.com for more information.
Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people, making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome to episode 284 of I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name's Chris Hollifield.
And I'm Chrissy Hollifield.
On this episode of the podcast, we sit down with Kasey Roy, tattoo artist at Blaque Salt Studio here in Salt Lake City. We find out what got her interested in art, what drives her as a tattoo artist, and what got her teamed up with Blaque Salt Studio.
And I discovered that is another talented lady in Salt Lake who I have a super girl crush on.
After talking with her, I was like, I cannot wait until the baby is born and you can go get some tattoo work from her.
Oh, man, I love her style.
Maybe we'll have to go back to back or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Someone can watch the baby.
We're going to play that conversation here in just a minute, so hang tight. As always, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, you're going to want to head on over to our website at iamsaltlake.com. This is where you can find the entire back episodes of the podcast, where you can listen right there online. There's also links for places like iTunes and Stitcher Radio where you can subscribe. We've been chatting with some awesome people here in Salt Lake City, and we'd love for you to check out all the episodes.
Hey, Salt Lake, are you in the market for a photographer? Check out AmandaKmemories.com. This is where you can check out all the photography of local photographer Amanda DeWolf. Amanda was the mastermind behind the pictures at our wedding, and we couldn't be happier with how they came out.
I was happy with how they came out.
Oh, I was stoked. I feel like I got to relive it over and over again.
If you're in the market for wedding pictures, headshots, or having pictures at any events this summer, check out our website, AmandaKmemories.com. Again, that's Amanda, K-A-Y, memories.com. So yesterday, I was finally able to make it to the downtown farmers market at Pioneer Park.
That made me so happy.
It was the first Saturday in July. It was beautiful out. It was crowded, though.
It was, you did like seriously people dodge.
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with the holiday weekend.
Oh, yeah.
But I felt like a kid at a candy store, checking out all the local vendors. We picked up some produce, some fresh cherries, and some other goodies. Every Saturday that I can make it, I miss living right across the street where I can go every Saturday.
I know.
So now that we live a little further away, it's hard to make it.
Effort.
But it was great. Got to see some familiar faces, including our friends Derek and Jennifer at Oleo Skin and Beard, where I picked up some of their teakwood scented beard oil and got some of their handmade bar soap.
They're making so many handmade soaps now. I think I sat and just smelled them for like 5 to 10 minutes.
If you haven't had a chance to check out Oleo, stop by their booth at the Downtown Farmers Market. They're there every Saturday from 8 to 2 o'clock. Check out their assortment of skin oils, their beard oils, and like I said, they have some great handmade bar soap now. You can also find them online at oleoskin.com. We actually set up a promo code for listeners of this podcast where you will enter in I Am Salt Lake, all one word, I Am Salt Lake, at checkout, where you're going to get 25% off of your entire purchase. Again, that's oleoskin.com. All right, let's jump into that conversation with Kasey Roy, local tattoo artist, when she came to our office here to share her story. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. Did you grow up here in Utah? Is that where you call home, or where did you grow up at?
I'm pretty much a transplant. I was a military brat. I feel like I have Noelle's story with a military brat, roller derby past. So, but no, my father was in the Air Force, so I've lived around. I've lived in Europe, Texas. And then this is just where my dad retired, and this is where I stay.
How long have you lived in Utah then?
The first time I was 4, and then I believe we moved over to Germany when I was about 7 or 8. And then the second time we moved here, I was about 12.
Okay, so a little while.
Did you pick up on any other languages?
I picked up a pretty mean Texas accent when I lived there.
That counts.
Lost it really quick when I moved back, though. But when I lived in Germany, it was pretty cool, actually, because we had a teacher that would come in and teach us German almost every day.
Did any of it stick with you, though? I mean, can you still
when
speak
I hear
a little
it,
bit of German? No?
I can understand it better than I can speak it. I'll hear things, and then I'm like, I know what that means. But to try and formulate sentences to, reply back, or my daughter's really interested in learning German, so she'll say things to me, and I'm like, I actually know that. This means this. But no, honestly, if you don't use it, you lose it. But I feel like it's something that I could probably learn quicker than any other language if I ever tried to pick it up again.
Up on it.
Sure. But when we lived off base, I mean, I think I knew enough to get by because a lot of the German kids in the neighborhood knew enough English that we were able to play together. So that worked.
Have you always been interested in art?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of jump ahead a little bit there.
Yes.
Like ever since you were a young child?
I knew when I was a young child, yes, because for a while it was just my dad and I. And we lived in this little house in West Point here in Utah. It's further north, but he was gutting out this house. I remember he was taking the wood paneling off of the walls. So it was just like bare plaster walls. And he had this green grease pencil that he brought home from work or whatever. And I just remember drawing Charlie Brown characters and Calvin and Hobbes. And I remember freaking out thinking, oh my God, this looks just like the comic. So I was like, I'm good at this.
And how old were you at this time? Probably?
I was about 4 or 5.
Okay, so quite young.
Yeah.
Quite young.
But I always knew that I had an interest in art because my dad was a bodybuilder. And he had a Boris Vallejo poster, and Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell, they're amazing oil painters. Kind of old school, a lot of sci-fi fantasy stuff, but they would do a lot of bodybuilding figures, and they would paint them. So, of course, my dad had this one print of a guy's buff arm, and there's this serpent wrapped around it, and I would just stare at it, and I would dissect it in every little pencil sketch. Wow. It just blew my mind.
So as a kid, you were very attentive to all the detail in it.
Right. Wow. So I would find things, and I remember I would even look at Brian Froud's art, because somehow we had this book. I don't know if it was something that my mom left behind, but we had it, and it was a book of Brian Froud. And Brian Froud's the one that designs a lot of the Jim Henson puppets. Amazing artist. And I was just like, so between Boris Vallejo and Brian Froud, and the Edward Gorey books, those were really cool, but that was what inspired me to give it a shot.
So did you decide that you wanted to go into fine arts, or was there something that you really gravitated towards?
Honestly, I wanted to draw things that I could see, and my goal was and this is speaking when I was younger.
Yeah.
My goal was to draw exactly what I could see, and the closest that I could get to it looking so real, I felt like I had accomplished something, so I didn't realize it at the time, but realism. Now, realism is still very, very amazing to me. Mm-hmm. Not hyper realism, because it's like just take a damn photograph, but
right.
Honestly, I've been the last few years, especially, I've been getting more and more into trying to challenge myself into doing different types of art. So I don't want to back myself into a corner by just being good at only one thing, because if you don't progress and you don't keep moving and you don't keep learning, then you become irrelevant at some point.
Yeah. Well, and this is, it ties really well into, I know I'm jumping ahead and we'll jump back, but
yeah.
You're amazing at portraits, like portrait tattoos. I've never seen, and I'm not like really proficient in tattoo, but when I saw your artwork online, I was like, those look like pictures. Like it looks like a picture of somebody that can come out of this computer.
Oh, thank you.
They're really, really good.
Thank you.
And as soon as Chrissy gets this baby out of her, she has no.
I keep trying to jump, but
she has no tattoos yet, and I'm just waiting. I think she's got perfect skin.
Yeah,
for
that nice.
We need to get creative.
Flawless, milky skin.
Actually, it's covered in scars, so let's just make those pretty. Make them go away.
So are you self-taught then, or did you go to school at all for any kind of art?
For art, for the most part, I'm self-taught.
That's awesome.
And then as I got older, it's funny, I actually failed art in school, in high school. But
any reason on why that was? Maybe
probably my lack of attendance, I would say.
Okay. Well, I was wondering, a lot of times, we have interests in things, but then when we're kind of forced to be in this little box, right?
That's exactly what they do.
You're like, no, I want to do this, but they're like, no, do this.
I actually failed an art assignment in junior high because of that. They're like, let's draw landscapes. And I did my version of a landscape and I failed.
Yeah.
That's what kills me about art is like kids don't really get to learn what art actually is growing up. They learn one person's perspective of what they should do.
You know, and I understand why now.
Yeah?
Because they want you to be educated in the different types of art. And the best way to learn is to do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not something that you want to do, it's definitely important to learn it. And I didn't understand until later on in life that, you know, you learn it the right way. And then when you're on your own, break the rules and do it the way that you want to do it.
That's true. And then you can pull from everything, your little tool belt of everything that you've learned the right
Learn
way.
the basics.
And sometimes doing what makes you uncomfortable is the best way to push yourself harder.
Absolutely. What are you doing right now that makes you uncomfortable? Like, are you currently trying to push yourself in any direction?
Yes, actually. Currently I'm taking an art class, my daughter and I. I'm taking an illustration class by this lady named Josephine Bradbury. Oh my gosh, she can do it all. She's just a jack of all trades when it comes to art. She's amazing. So in the summertime, she does art classes. So I've taken a few classes from her. This one is an illustration class. And although I feel confident in illustration, she's having us do something a little different than what I normally don't do. And I'm happy and I'm humbled with that. But at the same time, I'm like, how the hell am I going to do this? Like, we have an assignment. How am I supposed to execute it? And then at first, you know, I had an idea because she's like, well, I want you to do this. So I'm like, cool, got an idea. Have my subject picked out. And then on my way home, I'm brainstorming. And then all of a sudden, 67 million different versions of that are in my head. And so when you have too many options, you're just like, I can't do this.
You get paralyzed.
Exactly.
Like, what is it called? Decision paralysis, or
that sounds about accurate.
Yeah.
Sounds fancy.
Too
So then I'm like, maybe I should change my subject matter because I've made this more complicated than it needs to be. But
see, and I think that's brilliant because I would argue that most people have an assignment and they just have a blank, like,
Their mind
empty
goes
desert in their
blank,
head with like,
it's almost the equivalent. You know what I mean? Because if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. If you have roadblocks and you don't know where to start and it just starts shifting on you when you're trying to just find a starting place, it's the same as not doing it and not having anything going on at all. You know, to me, when it comes to having something solid to hand in and say, look, I did this. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
that's true.
So is this a class at like the community college or?
She teaches at City Academy, which I believe is a charter school here in Salt Lake, but in the summertime.
Anybody can take from her?
Absolutely. Yeah. She posts her class schedules online about 4 weeks before she starts the classes. And it's on her Instagram. And then you can just hit her up and, you know, the fees are really...
And
honestly,
what was her name again?
Josephine Bradbury.
I'll look her up and try to put the links with
And
this
you get
podcast.
to take it with your daughter.
Sure. Oh my gosh,
That's
my daughter.
so cool. Is she really into art also?
Yeah. Like,
How old's your daughter?
She's 13. She'll be 14 in a couple months. And holy shit, she blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like so my parents didn't know how to facilitate an artist when I was young because they weren't artists. You know?
Yeah. They just kind of let you...
Stop drawing on your school paper.
Oh.
Well, I don't have any paper, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't get to play with oils. I didn't get to play with pastels. I had to make my own, you know, I had to make it work. And, you know, and that's not their fault. They don't know what they don't know. But seeing that in my child, because my oldest and my youngest actually have a really good knack for drawing. So I know now, like, all right, let's push them a little bit. So my daughter's taken classes with me before. And usually I try to critique her when I can. And she's always drawing. And she's hell of a lot better than I was at that age. So hopefully
That's
she's
so
hell of a lot
cool.
better when she's 35 than I am. So
Is she interested in becoming like a tattoo artist then?
absolutely.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
you know-
Would you teach her? Or,
yeah.
Okay. I didn't
And-
know if like you would be like pawn
What
her
a
off
cool
on
like family trade to just keep passing down generation through generation. That'd be
Right.
awesome.
I would love, you know, it's a good life. It's stressful. It's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot that you need to know, and there's a lot that comes into it. It's not just you're playing all day, and there's a lot of pressure with us, you know, and I let her know, if I teach you to do this, don't expect me to go easy on you. If anything, I'm going to
Yeah.
be more strict because I expect more out of you.
Well, it's probably so difficult. You have to spend hours at a time very, very focused. And that's incredibly difficult.
Yeah. And while you're focused, you're thinking about everything else that you need to do. Like, am I going to be off in time to make the kids dinner? I still got to run this over to this place. I got to pay bills. I got to, there's a lot of things.
It's not like another job where you can just be like, okay, I have to go for 30 minutes. I'll be right back.
Sure.
That would be really
Do
intense.
a lot of people think the life of like a tattoo artist is just fun and games and playing around? And
possibly. I think from the outside looking in, if I try to remember how I would view them, I thought, gosh, what an awesome life. You get to party and, you get to have a badass job and you get to do a lot of cool shit and you get to be your own boss. That's the way I looked at it.
It is a cool job. I mean,
absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, well, yeah, you obviously, how long have you been doing it? How long?
Almost 4 years.
4 years in Salt Lake, I guess.
Yes. I'm at the place that I learned still.
You had an apprenticeship at the...
Yeah, Will... we followed each other on Instagram and we admired each other's art, didn't really speak much or interact much, but I get a message from him one day asking, because I used to sell prints on Etsy as just to supplement some income. Mm-hmm. And he was like, if you don't mind, do you want to meet up? I'm interested in selling some art online, long story short. And that was just a way to get me in to talk to me, to see my personality, because he wanted to offer me an apprenticeship, but he didn't want me to have my interview personality on if I didn't think I was under the impression.
He just wanted to actually get to know you.
Sure.
That is sneaky.
Did he know you were interested in, or were you interested in becoming a tattoo
Yes, I've actually
artist?
apprenticed in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it just didn't work out before.
Didn't work out. The first time I was 19 and I was actually married to somebody that was in the military and we got orders to leave. And so I was like, bye. I get to travel again.
That's tough.
And then his orders got canceled. And then by that time I was already pregnant. So it was like, it's time to be a mom. And then just a little bit before I started with Will, I got another apprenticeship somewhere. They had asked me. And so I quit my job. I had a good job where it was paying okay money and we were comfortable. And I had full coverage insurance, all that, and I had to think like, all right, I have to leave this. Or my option is to leave this job with security and insurance for my family for this apprenticeship where it's going to be tough for a little while and I'm not going to be making nearly as much and I lose my insurance, but it's enough to get us by. I'm looking at the long picture here, and I got to sacrifice because I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I am not happy. I'm just idling by and I'm miserable and I'm not living to my full potential. And I wasn't making nearly as much money. It was robbing Peter to pay Paul, at that apprenticeship, because they pay you to clean and check in clients and all that stuff. So it wasn't, I had to leave. And shortly after, that's when Will got a hold of me and I was like, I've done this and it just didn't work out for me. And he's like, well, what will work?
Wow.
And I was like, well, if I can keep my job and still see my kids, because I was like 13 hours a day at that other place, didn't ever get to see my family.
So you had to quit everything and just focus on the apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. And so Will was willing to work around because he saw your talent, obviously.
Sure. And, and he's a family man too. He's got a wonderful family. Like our families have just kind of blended, and it's awesome. Our kids are really close with each other. His wife is amazing.
That is so cool.
And it's Black Salt Studio.
Yes.
That you work out of. Where are they located? What's the address there?
We're at 930 South Main.
930 South Main. So that's okay. That's kind of the music. My mind's blank. Isn't that close to where the bands practice? I don't know.
I'm not sure. We're kitty corner from Proper Burger.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, right by the spot there.
Right next to Duffy's Tavern.
Yeah, Duffy's and the spot's right there. And yeah.
I know that place.
So... there's a lot of people that may still be under the impression that we're a private studio because at one point in time, up until recently, we were. And then we ended up opening up the front end. So now we, have people that can come in at any time.
For people like me, what's a private studio versus like a public studio then?
Yeah. We're, so private studio is when it's not open to the public. You have to, it's by appointment only.
Oh, okay. I see.
Right. And then
isn't that how most tattoo shops are though?
Some of them, if you have a clientele, that's the way to go, I believe. That way you don't have people coming in and out that you can't help anyway because you're busy. Mm-hmm. And Will and I have our own clientele and, we were able to keep up the private end, but we expanded. We got a bigger place. It's definitely like a bigger, beefier version of our last spot that we had, which was almost the size of this room. And now it's humongous. And so now we have the front end open so that way people can come in and experience Black Salt.
Sure.
without having to be on a waiting list. So
I don't know. I'm the type of person, if I was getting a tattoo, I'd want, get it good and have them draw it and
not really prepare.
Everybody's different though, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, and that's the smart way to do it. I never realized that that's what people did. I'm like, oh, you just walk in and get a tattoo, right?
Yeah. And for a lot of people that works.
Yeah.
And for
you probably get a lot of first timers who do that.
Sure. Yeah. And then we have, our artists, they're skilled, we like to make sure that they have a really solid art background as well. And usually if somebody comes in with an idea, it shouldn't take you too long to draw something up for them. Sometimes you can tell them, hey, do you want to go grab coffee or go grab a burger real quick? And then I'll get this drawn up for you. And then when you come back, we'll get started,
Wow.
So how many people work out of the shop then?
We have 6 right now.
6 people.
Correct, yeah.
Wow. And have you apprenticed any people then for that work there?
No. We've had apprentices off and on, but it's kind of hard. An apprenticeship is very hard and it's almost hard to keep people because it's a strict schedule.
Yeah.
So
is it tough to get an apprenticeship as well? I guess it depends on who it's through.
So the last 2 apprenticeships that I had, they asked me.
Yeah.
But I would say that I've seen a lot of people get turned down from both places.
Okay.
It is kind of hard. You have to honestly have a really solid art portfolio, because there's a lot of people that want to tattoo because it's cool.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Because they think that it would give them, street cred or, pussy points or something. But
they don't look at it as,
man.
Yeah. And that's not the kind of people that we want. We have an art studio and we take it seriously and we always try to further our education in art. And that's what we want our artists. We want them to be disciplined and we want them to have a right head on about themselves. Like we don't go party, we go home to our families afterwards. We go to the bar and party.
You're actually there to make art.
Sure.
That is, you actually, I saw you do microblading.
Yeah.
Also.
Yes, I do.
And you have a really impressive portfolio. How did you even get interested in doing, for people who don't know, microblading is it's a newer thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 7 to 10 years old. It was over in Thailand and all the, overseas before it made its way over here.
Yeah.
It's, basically taking a blade and it looks like an X-Acto knife and you're scoring hair strokes into the eyebrow to make it look like hair instead of just doing the soft tap or the, some of them have rotary machines that they use to actually tattoo on the eyebrows. But this one, it's still new, but it's booming. It looks more natural and people like it.
Much more natural look.
So you get rid of all your eyebrow hair.
No, you keep it. If anything, you just find a new shape for them. You use the planes of their face and you make measurements and stuff and you draw it on. And
so then, it's so we don't have to do it every day.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously that's not something I deal with.
There's people, like I've had clients that have had alopecia, and their eyebrows just have fallen off. Mm-hmm. Or if you have a thyroid disorder, usually the tail ends of your eyebrows come off. As you age, overplucking, there's so many different reasons why. And if you are adamant about having eyebrows every day when you leave the house, it could take 25 minutes to do your damn eyebrows.
Yeah, it's a pain.
If you do this, it could take no time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Is that something you would do?
Oh,
Kristen?
it's really, yeah. Well, actually, me and a bunch of girls at work, before I knew that you did it, we were huddled around a computer looking at microblading. Like they introduced me to it just a few months ago, and everybody in the office wants to do it because it's awesome.
Well, now you know where to go.
Right. Yeah, now I have someone to refer them to.
The cool thing too is because there's a lot of people doing microblading around town. It's you can get certified just by going to a class. You don't have to have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a scary thing, And then there's other female tattooers that are also turning into microblading. Yeah.
First.
I feel like the advantage that I have that I'm totally going to brag about is I do have a past in cosmetology, so I can mix my past in cosmetology and then my knowledge in tattooing. And I had so many clients asking me if I would do their damn eyebrows. I just felt like it was worth it to take the class, get certified, and be able to provide that as a service. So
that's awesome.
So you went to cosmetology school as well, then?
I
Wow.
did.
Gosh.
You're like, you've like
done
the
it
whole
all.
well-rounded human artistry thing down pat.
I hope so. But there's a lot that I want to do still. There's a lot that I always wanted to do. My goals in life, when I was younger, I either wanted to be in the military, a tattooer, or I wanted to do small scale set design for stop motion animation films. Oh. So those are my 3.
So are you going to attempt, probably not the military at this point.
No.
But have you ever built small scale Set design?
I farted around a little bit with some of that stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. Like, not dollhouse stuff, but, I totally dig like the Leica films and all that, where they do all that stop motion stuff, and it blows my mind. I think it's so incredibly hands-on, that you're not just drawing or using a computer for, CGI, but
You're physically, it's a very patient thing. Like, you've definitely a lot of patience to do stop motion photography like
for
that.
sure. When we were in Portland, when my boyfriend and I were in Portland a few years ago, we got to actually go to the studio, which is now House Special, and we got to tour their studio, and I was just geeking out. They were actually in the middle of filming a Ben & Jerry's commercial. And no, it was Haagen-Dazs. They were doing a Haagen-Dazs commercial, and we got to go on the hot set, and that was really cool to see. So that, it's bigger than you think. Like, the building that they had was probably from this table to the ceiling, and it was neat. I was just like looking at every little detail. So that stuff is cool to me. I have tarantulas, and I always wanted to get around to building like little scales. Yeah.
How many tarantulas do you have?
I have two.
Awesome.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
What kind are they?
They're just the curly hair. They look like the rose hair, but their hair is a little curly. It's adorable. They look like they have a bad perm.
Yes, adorable. That's totally what I think of.
Growing up,
Adorable is the first word I think of when I hear tarantula.
my older brother found a tarantula in a neighbor's backyard growing up, and we were quite young, and he decided to take it to church. This is still when we were going.
Are you not
church.
supposed to bring them to church?
And he had this like bookcase to keep his books in, and he took his books
Like a
out.
scripture case?
I think, yeah. And he put the tarantula in there, and I remember he it was, I don't know, it just reminded me of that story.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
Anyway, let's take a quick break really fast. We have to play a message from our sponsor, and then we're going to chat with Kasey some more, so hang tight. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Jed's Barber Shop. With 3 locations now, you have no reason to not always look your best. Go get a haircut, a beard trim, or even a straight razor shave. Jed's Barber Shop is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday 9 to 7, and Sunday 12 to 5. They have a location downtown at 212 South, 700 East, and in Sugarhouse at 2153 East, 2100 South. They just opened up a 3rd location at 167 East, 900 South, right next to Randy's Records. No appointment is necessary. Head on over to jedsbarbershop.com for more information. So we actually didn't even get talking. I know Chrissy mentioned, your tattoos, like the portraits and stuff, but how would you describe your style for people that are listening that might not be familiar at all with you? How would you describe your style? Or,
I've actually never thought about what my style was. When I first started tattooing, I was so focused on having a style.
Yeah.
And then now I've just kind of let that go and focus more on making sure that it's solid, that I've never really thought about what it is. I would say I love to do black and gray, whether it's realism or like loose, sketchy kind of. I like doing, a lot of stippling, kind of messy, but I like to have chaos a little bit, but there's like a method to that. Gosh, it's really hard to say. I like to do creepy shit, so if people want to do creepy stuff, like that's my jam. Yeah.
Is there ever
a lot of black and gray
that you won't do?
Oh,
I mean,
of course.
Obviously you're the given stuff.
Yeah.
Probably. But
I'm thankful to be at a point now where I can actually turn down people's ideas. If anything, if their idea is probably not in their best interest and they just don't think it, you try to explain to them why it's probably not the best way to go that route, and that we could take their idea, but we could, make it something marvelous. I won't copy other people's work. You get asked that sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't.
Such as what? Like a
Somebody
piece of
will send
art
you.
or...
Somebody will send you a picture from Pinterest and say, "I want this," and then you tell them, "No, that's great that it's a reference and it shows like a visual inspiration.
Yeah.
And I can pick off that and make my own design.
Sure.
What are some of the elements about this picture that you absolutely love? So that way I know what it is about this picture that you like."
And you want to create unique art from inspiration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then some of them are like, "No, I want it as exact to it as I can." I'm not going to drive my career into the ground so soon, you know?
Now, is that a respect thing for the other artists?
Absolutely.
Or I mean, could you get in trouble for something like that?
I mean, you can't get in trouble, but I will tell you that they will blast your ass all over media if you copy somebody else's work.
Sure, sure,
Because
absolutely.
as an artist, you should be able to come up with something.
Sure.
And as a person, you should be able to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it just for your money.
Yeah.
It's not worth the money, you know? Either let's come up with something. You need to have a trust in me as an artist to come up with something that's going to be in your better interest. That's not going to be an exact copy of what somebody else is already wearing. And then we can work together.
Do you find that you have to educate a lot of people on that?
Sure. And, you know, and sometimes I need to back the fuck down because sometimes I feel like I look at people, or not necessarily look, because most of it's through email correspondence. So what am I, saying?
Blare the computer.
Right. I'm just like, or I'll roll my eyes and talk to my boyfriend. I'm like, oh my God, they want this. And it's, and then I'm just like, you know what? Back up a minute. Because I have stupid tattoos. I have stupid tattoos.
They look pretty good from here, though.
Well, you know, what you don't see is what we're talking about. So
now I want to know.
But, you know, at the time I was like, oh, this is an awesome decision. I'm totally going to get this done. And I thought it was the coolest thing. But then now I look at it and I was just like, God, I wish I would have had somebody at least put the idea out there that this is not in my best interest. You know, that there could be a better way, better location, you know, so many things. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I won't do. I won't do those little infinity symbols or, you know,
The
those
forever love signs.
Yeah, that's just, you know, there's people that want a lot of lettering and writing. And it's like, so you basically want a Hallmark card on your body. But however, there are a lot of lettering artists out there that make lettering into an art. Like, oh man, they do amazing jobs. So I would say I would get a tattoo like that. I haven't attempted it.
And if people are looking for a word tattoo, really maybe look for someone who is background in typography, who really has a focal
who
point.
used to do like lettering and hand painted signs and all that. They're going to be your best bet because a lot of them actually do tattoo. People who have done graffiti, stuff like that, you know. But I don't personally like doing it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You're really good at actual like you kind of do a lot of really nice fantasy style art, you know, realism and fantasy. And
I guess
now
I do.
I'm putting you in a box, but that's the stuff that I've seen from you that was just blew me away.
Well, thank you.
was
Yeah,
very
I guess
cool.
I do. I'm realistic,
Like
but
real
fantasy.
like surreal real. If that makes any sense.
So we mentioned we have a private Facebook group on Facebook, and we mentioned that we were going to be sitting down and chatting with you. And one of the listeners of the podcast, so I said, hey, does anybody have any questions that we should ask Kasey? And Britt West, I don't know if you know her at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, she actually been on the podcast at Just Sketch Britt.
That's rad.
Anyway, she mentioned here, she says she loves your work, and she would love to know what struggles or pressures she has faced being a badass woman in the tattoo industry and how she battled it. It seems it's becoming a lot more common for women to establish their career in the industry, but I'm interested to hear what she's encountered as a woman.
That's a great question, and it's loaded. I think it's as hard as you make it. If you let things get to you, there's going to be people that are going to say things regardless of whether you're a female tattooer or you're a male tattooer. Honestly, I can say that I don't think that I've had anything hold me back as a female, but also I don't let a lot of shit bother me.
Is it tough being a female? I mean, I got my first tattoo, let's see, 22 years ago almost now. And I remember the guy who did it even told me at that time that some of his favorite tattoos were from a female.
Right.
I mean, that was over 20 years ago.
You know, I've been faced with things like, oh, you're pretty good for, I'll have a dude email me and be like, hey, I was looking at your art. You're actually pretty good for a female.
And they'll say this in an email.
Yeah.
Wow. And then they expect a response?
And it's like, oh, so we're good enough to, carry your children and make meals for you, but we're not good enough to
have skills.
Exactly. Yeah.
They could be a sandwich artist, but not a.
And my thing is like, I didn't really get offended. I was just like, that's his ignorance, not mine.
Sure.
And I'm
Are you still willing to work with people like that and bring them in? And
that's because I also have to realize too at the same point, a lot of people don't realize how things come out. And if it's all in text, it could be misconstrued
That's true.
immensely, so it's like, whatever, And then as soon as they meet me and I meet them and I see their personality, the only way that I'm ever going to not work with them again is if there was just a personality clash and it just, but as far as being a female tattooer, I cannot say that it's been hard for me. I think the only way that it's been hard for me is the way that it's been hard for anybody learning. An apprenticeship is very demanding. It takes a lot. And there's a lot of times where you want to give up and you want to quit and you don't think that you can do it and you don't think that you have any time. But I was a single mom with 3 kids and I made it work. So
I was going to ask about that. I mean, how old were your kids when you had to apprentice?
This was about almost 5 years ago. This fall I'll be with Black Salt for 5 years. So gosh, Reagan was about 9, 7, and 4.
Wow.
How does it work to be an apprentice? I mean, because it's obviously not like a textbook, right? Like it's not like there's certain things that you have to learn. So, I mean, I would imagine every apprenticeship is different.
I'm sure it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, the apprenticeships that I've had, they've all been different from one another. I had one where they absolutely did not give a shit whether they humiliated you or not, because there was that humility before honor thing. And that's kind of an old school. There's a lot of old school people out there that think that it should still go that way. I understand it to a point because there's not a lot of kids now that are disciplined. There's no discipline in showing up on time, doing the things that are asked of you. They slough it off and then they get reprimanded and they get humiliated,
But there's a difference between humiliation and structure.
Respect.
Yeah.
Sure. And and that's a lot of what Will did. It was, he wants to see me succeed.
Sure.
But he also wants to see that I want to succeed. Sure. And if he's not seeing that drive, then what is he wasting his time giving you a valuable skill for?
Yeah, absolutely.
So your apprenticeship, you're cleaning, you're busting your ass. You're making sure that you're setting up your mentor, you're breaking him down. You're still doing art. You are doing so many things and it requires a lot of your time. But all of that is to make you more disciplined as an artist, to have more structure. You learn these things, taking pride in your studio. If you're going to take pride in your studio and the way that it looks, the appearance, then you're going to take pride in the way that you execute a tattoo, and the way that you treat your clients, So there's that. And there's a lot of people out there that, not all of them, so I don't want to get like for saying this because it's not everyone, but there are a lot of tattoo artists out there that act like they are God's gift to fucking everything.
Sure.
And it's just like, I don't even want to talk to them.
What advice would you give somebody listening right now? And they're like, look, I'd love to be a tattoo artist.
It's going to be a hard road, but you have to be consistent and persistent. Have a strong art background, have a great portfolio.
Sure.
Don't put all your good stuff in your portfolio, put your bad shit too. So that way, you're the person that you're wanting to apprentice under can see the milestones and what you've come from, and just, it's hard and it's a lot of time. You almost can't have a job because of the hours that are required or a full-time job in itself.
And most apprenticeships, you don't get paid, right?
Correct. Yeah.
If not all apprenticeships, which is, but I mean, it shows.
But you're putting in labor for the education that you're receiving in turn.
Sure. What does being creative mean to you?
Gosh, I don't know, because there's really no limit to that question. It's just you are creative. You don't try to, sit on Pinterest and be like, what are the ways that I could be creative? They're constantly, it's like a second voice in your head that's just constantly nagging you, all these different ideas.
So you just have ideas come in your brain. They just appear. That is just,
her brain's probably like ours.
Mind-boggling.
It's just, it doesn't shut up.
Yeah.
So
how do you find inspiration? Do you even need to, or do you just see it everywhere?
Absolutely. Honestly, you see it without realizing it. Sometimes you'll see some shit and you're just like, oh my God, that'd be so cool, except like this, and you can make it however you want it, because that's you. That's the cool thing about art. The coolest thing about art to me is, we can, when we die, you can't take somebody's brain, stick shit in it, and project images of things that people have seen. But that's what paintings are. That's what drawings are. That's what art is, is just a visual in somebody's brain, and that makes money, and that's not what it's about. But people pay good money just to have something made from, things, minerals and canvas, and just to have a projection of what's going on in your brain. And I think that's the coolest thing ever.
What was your first tattoo?
It was the most horrible, like Coop style red devil lady. She had like an upside down ankh on her vagina, and she had like the eye of Ra on her boobs, and it was so cliche, but I thought it was the coolest thing. It was like, it was facing the wrong way on my arm, and one of her hands looked like a crab claw. I mean, for about 6 months, I was like, I am badass. I have this tattoo on my arm.
You're super proud of it.
Oh, for sure. And then my dad, I never ever knew what my dad thought of it, but when I was ever at his house, you know, he was in like he had biker friends, and he'd be like, "Hey, Kasey, why don't you show him your tattoo?" And now that I look back on it, my dad was probably like, let me have my daughter show you her shitty tattoo. You know what I mean? So I was just like thinking, oh, sure, I'll show him. Rolling up my sleeve. That's all. I'm like, you can probably see my face getting red right now because that's just the worst.
Do you still have it, or did
no?
you have
Will
work
actually
put over
covered it up. So now I have a plague doctor mask and a crow and a rat.
Oh.
So
Did your dad have tattoos?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He has an ankh, and like he got the ankh in 79 when he joined the service. And then he got a tribal armband. I tried to talk him into letting me cover it up.
Have you tattooed your dad?
Oh yeah, I've tattooed my dad. I've tattooed all my parents. And then he wouldn't let me because he got the tribal when he retired. So the ankh was when he joined the service. The tribal is when he retired, but it's tribal. So that's another one that I will not do. Yeah. Yep.
You won't do any tribal?
Oh, no.
Even if they came in with a fistful of money?
It's not about the money.
What if they're actually
like
what if they actually want their heritage? Like
that's something that's different. Okay. And that's something that I probably should not touch if I'm not familiar with that culture. That should probably be somebody from that culture doing that style.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
Because I could slaughter it. But, no, it's like, it doesn't matter if somebody has a fistful of money and they're like, hey, will you do the shitty tribal tattoo?
Do the shittiest one you could do.
Will you write my wife's name in barbed wire on my chest?
No, and I realize it's not all about money, but at the same time, you have bills to pay.
Sure, but in the very beginning of my apprenticeship, when I first started transitioning into tattooing, I had to either take everything that came my way so I could put food on the table, or use Jedi mind tricks to talk them into something cooler. Be like, hey, I've actually had this that I've wanted to do. And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool. But the problem with doing things that you like that, if I did, the monster logo or, did some stupid Hatchet Man tattoo, sorry, juggalos. The problem with that is then I would get hordes of people coming to me wanting that for that stuff.
Yes. And you can't ever build your portfolio the way that you want to.
Sure. I would be posting nothing.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, because, as a tattoo artist, your art is on display always and constantly.
Your
everywhere.
Name is on everything you do.
People, who did that? Where did you get that? Da, da, da. Are there pieces that like you did in the beginning that you wish, gosh, I wish they'd come back to me and I could...
Sure, no, I've actually had some people come back and I've seen it and be like, let's get you back in and let me doctor that up a little bit. Yeah.
Let's cover that
That's
up.
the least I could do,
Sure. What medium would you like to try but haven't? Like, is there an art medium that you would like to try but haven't had the opportunity to yet?
I would say, I can't say that I haven't had, because I've tried a lot of things.
Sure.
I don't know... I can't think of one thing that I haven't tried, but one thing that I do want to get into, and I want to be just as serious about it as I am with tattooing, because I don't want tattooing to be the only way that I do what I love to take care of my family.
Yeah.
I really want to get into oil painting, and I started getting into oil painting, and I haven't made time to do it the way that I know that I want to, and so that's where I just have to kind of reset. I set my own schedule anyway, so the only person that I have to blame for not oil painting enough is myself. So now that I've moved, I am pre-dedicated to making sure that this starts to happen, that I start getting bigger into oil painting, because I did it and I was like, whoa, I'm actually not bad at this. So that was always a challenge for me. When I was younger, I was just like, I will never touch oil paints.
Oil paints are difficult. Oh,
for sure, but I love it. I love it. I love the way they smell. I love that everything, the textures, the getting dirty, mixing, like everything about it. I want to do more of it. So I found by taking a class from Josephine Bradbury, I was just like, wow, I effing love this.
Yeah.
Like this is.
So you really want to take that and work it into more of a career
and implement it. And with my current way that I
Yeah.
Sure.
get paid.
I mean, you could have a gallery in the studio of your artwork that people can see.
Sure.
That'd be amazing.
No, I'd love to. I would love to. I want to oil paint because I love doing it. And I find that not doing tattoos is what gets you paid, but love doing tattoos is what gets you paid, because you can see it in your work when you are excited about it and when you love what you're doing. It shows. And that's where I've declined clients in the past too. It's like, I'm just not excited about it. And it's not fair to you and it's not fair to me because it's going to show in my work. And you should have the tattoo that you want, but I don't want to fucking do it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people that go to get tattoos don't realize it's going to be there the rest of your life.
Yeah. Oh no. Or you have people that remind you, this is going to be on my body forever.
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
Is that what I'm doing?
Do some clients do that the whole time? The whole time you're working on
like
it?
when they're trying to talk to you and then they're trying to dictate and govern and like hover over every single like idea of the design. That's where you got to tell them like, look, I'm feeling like there's a lack of trust here. That's making me feel uneasy. You need to step off a little bit and trust that I'm going to come up with something that you like, or
go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then this is on my body forever.
Oh, geez. Well,
I wasn't aware.
So besides being a tattoo artist and just art in general, what are some of your other hobbies and interests? What are some other things that you enjoy spending any free time doing? Or does that consume you?
No, honestly, it does a lot.
Sure.
If I'm not working and I'm at home, my day is I work, I go home, I try to give the kids my time.
you have 3 kids. That's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot of damn kids. Three's a charm.
Sounds like
There's
us.
a crowd. Sounds like us.
Yeah. So I had a situation that happened that really bummed me out. So I've always been trying to make sure that I don't do that anymore. But something happened with the kids, then they tried to fix it themselves. And I was like, why didn't you ask me? Like, why didn't you tell me I'm right here? And they're like, well, you were on your phone.
Oh,
And that made me feel like shit. And so ever
that's
since
so
then,
hard when you're a working mom because they have to learn to respect your time and they never know
Sure,
when they
but
can bug
that's
you
not-
and when.
I feel like that's where I kind of started to realize my own like motto that I don't really ever say out loud. It's just my own, do what you want them to remember the most. Mm-hmm. Make the decisions that you are okay with remembering and reflecting back on. And one of them is I don't want my kids to look back and be like, I don't know, she was either on her tablet or on her phone or, I want to be available to them. That doesn't mean that I don't have my phone in my face.
Right.
It just means it's a lot less often. I try to be more aware.
Or you'll put it down.
Sure.
Yeah. That's solid parenting advice in general.
It's hard to adhere to. You find reasons, if they're just kind of doing their own thing and they're not paying attention to you, but they're there, then you justify like, oh, I'll just play some Candy Crush. So now I only try to save that for toilet time.
Most memorable concert or sporting event that you've been to?
The Decemberists. Don't ask me which one because all of them.
How many shows have you been to of theirs?
This will be my They're coming in August and it will be my 4th.
Have you driven outside of like Salt Lake City?
Oh, I've gone to Portland to see them.
That's what I was wondering, like
just
the furthest.
for that.
If you could go back to your first day of high school and give yourself advice, what would you tell yourself?
Don't care what other people think.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
Did you care what other people thought growing up?
Oh, bad. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had that. I don't know if it was because, so my backstory, my parents divorced when I was really young and I stayed with my dad. And my dad remarried and she raised me and she did a great job. However, I didn't have a good relationship with my dad for the longest time and I didn't even have my mom. Mm-hmm. So the person that I bonded with the most was my mom who raised me. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of had insecurities about having a lack of both parents,
Yeah.
Because, like I said, my dad and we never got along. And my mom, I never saw her. So I had a lot of insecurities, for sure. And so I looked into being accepted by other people, just trying to fit in. And then, moving around all the time. Every 3 years, you're moving somewhere else and trying to make new friends. And sometimes who you are just isn't enough. And I needed to realize that was too enough. Mm-hmm. That was enough. That just wasn't for those people that you were trying to appeal. And those people that I was trying to appeal were sacks of shit. But that's the crowd that I wanted to be with, Sure. Like, and then it's just, if I could go back and kick my own ass, I would. For a lot of things.
If you could do a Skype call with any living person, who would it be and why?
I think I would do, earlier when we were talking about all, all these ideas and then you have 60,000 of them. I would have to say maybe Carson Ellis.
Carson Ellis.
I am not familiar.
She is an illustrator and she's amazing. And she's also the wife of Colin Malloy, who's the singer of the Decemberists.
There you go.
But I equally admire her too. She's an artist.
Yeah.
She's an amazing illustrator. She's a mom and she's so down to earth. And I admire how adorable her marriage is, you know, and I would ask her, like, how do you keep going? Because between her traveling and doing books and taking care of kids and having a husband that's on the road and her sometimes being on the road with him and her busting out drawings and books like crazy. It's like, how do you keep going?
Yeah.
So some people are just crazy. I mean, Chrissy and I were talking about this earlier. I keep going. She just sometimes wants to go to bed at night. And I'm just like, no,
It's weird.
let's
I like
just
the
keep going.
sleep
Let's just
thing.
keep
I don't
going.
know.
I'm kind of anti-sleep. I'm learning how to.
I wish that I didn't have to sleep so I can
It
get
would
more
be
shit
nice.
done.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I'm just like, you know,
Yeah.
I have to. And then sleep wins, kind of.
If you could choose your last words, what would they be?
Always be kind.
And then we have a few Salt Lake City related questions that we ask people on the podcast. If somebody was visiting Salt Lake City, like they're here for a day, is there something you would tell them to do or check out or
That's why I'm
visit?
so bad. I don't like it here.
Oh,
No, that's
that's fair.
It's fair to
That's
say.
fair.
Like,
What
I
don't you
just
like about it?
I guess I'm just over it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been to so many different places that
Yeah.
I know what's out there that I'm just like,
Sure.
I mean, I will say Salt Lake is a great place. It is beautiful. When people if somebody was to come here, I wouldn't tell them that I don't like it, you know, because that's negative Nancy. But
What is it that you don't like, though? Let's lay it on the table.
you know, honestly, if I have to be honest with myself, it's probably the things that I would find anywhere else.
Sure.
Just, you know, shitty, spoiled people. Honestly, the people. I'm more of like let me live in the woods, 20 miles from the city, away from people. Like I like my privacy. I think that's how I am. And
So you're not a city person?
no, not at all. And this is like,
And you're
I feel
right in the
suffocated.
heart of the city
Sure.
all day.
I feel that's hard. That's hard because I don't hate this place, but I don't like this place. It's just not my place.
Yeah.
So fish out of water for sure.
Do you have any favorite local eating spots?
Oh gosh, I have many.
Well, let's
HSL.
There we go.
There's HSL, Handle Salt Lake. They also have one in Park City, but HSL is amazing. I like Hub and Spoke. I like Proper Burger. Oh my gosh, do I love Proper Burger. And there's a few good Korean places around here that I love because I love Korean food. I love Thai food and authentic Mexican. Oh, speaking of authentic Mexican, you guys want to get the best tacos that you've ever freaking had.
Yeah.
So on 3300 South, like between Redwood and 215, there's this little taco place called like Mi Carmelito. Oh my gosh. They have like street style tacos. They have like the Vampiro tacos and oh my gosh. They have everything. They have like cheek meat and lengua and oh my
Really?
gosh. Delicious.
Huh.
Yes.
Gotta go try them out.
Oh yeah. You have to know how to order in Spanish too. Otherwise.
Oh man.
Oh, you can't order it in English.
We'll need an interpreter.
Really?
Yeah, you know, you're going to hold the line up if you do. And
Do
then you're going to have a lot of
you
hungry
speak
people.
Spanish then?
I know enough
to get tacos.
To get tacos.
Enough to get cheek tacos, right?
Yeah, my boyfriend, he managed a restaurant, you know, Cancun Cafe like years ago. And because of that, he knows a lot of Spanish. So when we went to Puerto Rico and stuff, it was just like,
Oh, that's so
it's nice having him there to order food. And then, so when we go to Mi Carmelito, sometimes they'll ask me something really fast and I'm like, shit, I didn't catch what she said. And then he'll just be like, yeah.
And that's nice because you don't actually have to talk to people too. I would be all over that.
Yeah. No, it's delicious. So there's a lot of good eating places. There's a lot of like really good local eateries that are, man, they're killing it. I can say that the food game is super strong here because I definitely enjoy
Yeah.
eating.
Definitely a great foodie scene.
It is. It
And
really
we've
is.
discovered a lot of great eating places through the podcast, even recommendations from people.
There's too many to get to.
Yeah.
There's so many.
You know, I always ask, like, what would somebody change about Salt Lake? I mean, I think you kind of vented that earlier, just the people
honestly,
or...
I think it would be
But wait, there's more.
right. I think the one thing that does bother me a lot though, and maybe I didn't realize that this was what bothers me the most until you asked that question, is if the church can stay out of the, you know, they say that there's
Separation. The separation
There's no
of
fucking
church.
separation.
Sure.
You know, like legalize weed already. You know, that's
It's almost like they're trying to integrate a little more tightly.
Right. And it's like no, we can't because this is wrong. Well, according to the church, I can understand that. But if you're looking at it from a person who's not from the church, then why do you believe this? You know, like if you look at things
you don't see any other churches putting their public statements in like newspapers, right? You know what I mean?
Pretty old school.
Right?
Like
it's
if you
kind of
saw...
like, well, this is what the Mormon church says, and it's like, well, you know.
Well, I just feel like with like, I don't know, the opioid epidemic going on, you know, it's like, wouldn't you rather have somebody not addicted to that? And there's other alternatives.
Safer alternatives.
Sure. And I have a Facebook friend. I went to high school with her, but I don't really talk to her. But I noticed that she was talking about how her young daughter, who's about the same age as one of my kids, having seizure after seizure. And it just broke my heart. And all I could think is, if you were only in a place where you could get her medicinal, you know,
like even hemp oil, like high quality hemp oil.
You know, and it's like instead they're giving her all this other stuff, and it's like, it's just sad. You know, I'm happy to see the direction as far as gay marriage being approved. Like, good. Like, that's a step in the right direction. And these are things that I definitely appreciate. And that's one thing that I never thought would be happening so soon. But there are some other things where it's just like, gosh, get your damn hands out of the government's pockets, you know?
Yeah.
Or the other way around, really.
I think things are going to change fast, though. You know,
hope so.
I mean, I know a lot of people seem to think, oh, you know, everything is 50 years off this way or that way. But like you were even saying with the gay marriage, I mean, look at how
it's a step.
Quickly
it's a sign.
And it's like a lot of people didn't see that happening. But it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they can start treating us like adults, I'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like somebody said, I posted on Facebook, legalize adulthood, right? You know,
there you go.
You know, just legalize being an adult. But
well, I mean, decriminalize being an adult, you know, at least.
Exactly. Like, come on, guys.
Well, and the whole drinking thing, like we have cops that come in the studio, and I asked one of them, I was like, you know, how do you feel about the new drinking law? The was it 0.05?
0.05, I think.
Yeah. And he's like, oh my God. He goes, it's so ridiculous. He's like, it makes us look like the assholes. Now that they're making us wear cameras everywhere, we have to enforce it or it's our asses, you know?
Oh, really?
They hate it.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I've actually noticed a lot of police officers around here with like full sleeves and stuff. It's pretty cool. Like you didn't see that years ago.
It's crazy. We have a lot of really cool. Like
we have a solid tattoo scene.
Yeah,
like,
we do. It's a very good
police
tattoo
officers
scene.
with full sleeves.
Well,
you know, that's what's cool to me.
I've tattooed a dentist who's had his own practice. I've tattooed, and they're like really like professional men, and that makes me like, yeah, that's awesome. I like this. A Delta pilot who does like international, you know, flights. That was cool. You know, I've seen him a couple times. But it's just neat when you get people coming in and you find out what their jobs are. And some of them, I'm like, oh, it's so much cooler than what I do. You know, like a Delta pilot who gets to fly internationally. You know, he gets to travel. It's probably
that makes me happy
awesome.
that like it's becoming acceptable to let people express themselves.
Well, but then at the same time, they're also wearing suits and you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But then what's crazy about it, like my day job, I work in the housing industry and I get so much crap for my tattoos. And it's
really?
like, I work in the construction type housing industry, and what you would think would be very accepting.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, well, you're kind of a loser in life because you have tattoos.
Sure. That's exactly what that means.
Like,
it's just,
what?
so my boyfriend, he's covered. He's almost got a full body suit.
Yeah.
And he is a professional. He is a network administrator for like a major bridal gown company. So he has to look professional. So when he's at work, you know, and he's got his button-up shirt, he looks nice and handsome. And then all of a sudden, you know, t-shirt or tank top comes on, he's wearing shorts. And you're just like, damn, son, I didn't know you had all those tattoos underneath there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, but where, I don't know, though, like how you say, you know, they look professional. Like, why can't tattoos look professional?
They can.
But
they absolutely can. You know, and I feel like those dinosaurs that feel like you cannot be responsible or accountable they'll die.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And just like I was at a cafe eating, this was last year, and there's this guy, he was older, sitting there with his wife and his two friends, which is, I guess, a wife and a husband too. But he, you know, he's that kind of guy that talks louder in restaurants than he needs to because he doesn't mind that everyone hears him. And then
he's like me.
But he's kind of got like that toothpick in the mouth, take it out to say something important, put the toothpick back in the mouth. But
oh boy,
he stood up and he's like, how do you expect to like hold? I can't exactly remember how he said it. I wish I could, because the way that he asked it was ridiculous too. But he's like, how do you expect to hold down a job with all those tattoos? And he's just kind of wagging his finger, zigzagging. I'm like,
At you?
Mm-hmm. Like
Wow.
the same way you do. I wake up, I put my pants on one leg at a time. I drive to work and I work and I get paid like you. Is there another way to do this? It's like, it's almost like they think that you have zero opportunities to be successful if you're
Because you
tattooed.
have tattoos.
Yeah, and it's
Which
like,
is crazy
I'm my
'cause
own boss.
It really seems like, in general, the work market is much more acceptable of people being themselves as long as they work hard and they're skilled.
Sure.
Like I love our generation where we're going with that. I think we're doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, but other than that, I really don't see it happening very often, and that humbles me. It makes me feel good to see that people aren't.
Well, then you get people that put fuck across their forehead tattooed. And you wonder,
They kind of ruin it for everybody.
And then they're like, "Why can't I get a job?"
Well, maybe it's because you have fuck on your forehead. I mean, that's probably holding you
But
back.
I'm a good worker,
Oh man.
How can people? Let's wrap this up. How can people find you online? Websites?
Yeah, I have KaseyRoy.com.
Okay.
Please do not click the appointment button and make an appointment with me unless we've approved the design first, because I've had a few of those. And then I have to decline it. Like, we didn't talk first. So I will say that, but it has my portfolio or it's Instagram. It's at Kasey, Kasey _Roy _tattoos. And then there's also the Black Salt Studio one. So there's the at, and then Blaque, BLAQUE _studio or Salt Studio. Sorry. And then, yeah, we're on Facebook, Black Salt Studio. I have Murder of Crows is my Facebook page because that's my LLC name. So, but yeah, you can find us honestly just by searching us. We're pretty easy to find.
Awesome. And I'll put those links at iamsaltlake.com.
Cool.
With this podcast. And then the address is
930 South Main.
930.
And you'll see that on any of those. Usually we have our address on there.
Sure,
And then if you go to @will _xx2, he has information as well. So
And he's a great tattoo artist as well.
That's who taught me.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Kasey. Anything else you want to ask her before we let her go? I don't want to hold her up any longer.
I know
here,
we've kind of kept you a little extra long. No,
But I've had a heck of a conversation and just finding out more about you and what you're
this
doing.
is great. And then now everybody can hear my voice and hopefully understand that I'm a female. I get that.
you do have that kind of a name.
Yeah.
It can go either way.
And I don't post a lot of selfies, so
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. I've had chicks talk to me like I was a guy, and I'm like, no.
You're like, honey, no,
Yeah.
please.
Or I've had people show up and I'm like, oh, you're here for me? And they're like, no, I'm here for Kasey. That would be me. So, but yeah, thank you guys.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Thank you. All right. Many thanks again to Kasey Roy from Black Salt Studio for coming on this episode and sharing her story. What a great conversation. You're going to want to head on over to our website for the show notes, links to get in touch with her. All of that's going to be at iamsaltlake.com/284. That's for episode 284. Reach out to her.
Yeah.
Let her know you heard her on the podcast.
And man, check out her portfolio. It is fun.
Yeah, and we're going to put all the links right there online. But listen up, it's the first of the month. It's the first Sunday of the month. You know what that means. It's time to give some love to our Patreon supporters. We seriously couldn't keep this project going without these folks. I think a lot of it
They're
is even
amazing.
for their motivation, that they love the podcast, right?
It really boosts our morale quite often.
I seriously, every month, I'm just like, these guys are what keeps me going. I want to read down the list here, though, of our Patreon supporters. Ryan Prince, many thanks to him. Jared Aguilar, many thanks to him. Brittany Hemingway, Jeff Hadfield, Phil Cooper, Michael Beck, Eric Tomorrow, Nicole Davison, Max Allen, Jeff Hatt, Kevin Lindstrom, John from New Zealand, Nikki from New Zealand, 3 Irons SLC, Scott Nompf, and cannot forget the lovely Margaret Schlachter from Dirt in Your Skirt podcast.
I absolutely love that these people aren't just listeners and supporters. There are genuine friends.
Oh, I keep in touch with all of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know.
and also I want to make a mention. If you are a Patreon supporter already, like a $5 and up Patreon supporter, please reach out, or don't reach out, but make sure your address is updated. I'm going to send all the $5 and up Patreon supporters. We have a little gift that we put together and that we made you guys. But if you want to become a Patreon supporter, just go to iamsaltlake.com, click on the support the show banner. There's a little one up top there to join the swarm where you can support the show and get bonus and extras. And it's a great way to say,
we actually have some cool bonus content.
I love you, Chris and Chrissy. Yeah, but New Zealand time. It's
New Zealand time.
New Zealand time. We love our New Zealand listeners, Nikki and
we
John.
Do. You guys are so much fun.
They were here. Let's give a little backstory of this calendar. So they were here last November, I believe, and they gave us this calendar. It's like a New Zealand calendar where we hung it up in the office here, and every month for 2017, they have a little painting that we have to try to interpret, and then Nikki kind of gives us in the I Am Salt Lake group on Facebook.
Yeah. She corrects us.
We have a little private community there that everybody should join up, but she kind of tells us a little bit about it. We
like to play it by ear and not Google things. Just kind of have fun with this.
It's what do we got there?
So for the month of July, it's like 4 squares, and there's a kiwi, the bird, not the fruit, a rugby football. Or is that appropriate to say? Or is it a rugby ball?
Just like it's not football because it's rugby.
It's rugby. So there's that. And then there's a leaf symbol that looks like it is a brand of rugby ball.
Something like that, yeah. And then a kiwi.
And then a kiwi and a corn dog and a pie.
And a pot pie. It's a pot pie.
So
like
really
a Marie Callender's pot pie.
Yeah. It actually just looks like a really good month.
Yeah, July, right? Like, I'd love to know, Nikki, tell us what the weather's like over there. Like, what are the temperatures over in New Zealand right now?
This looks like America's November.
Well, yeah, she said, I can't remember. Did she say it's wintertime over there, right? She said it's wintertime, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Anyway, great calendar, by the way, that we love our Kiwi listeners. Hey, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Jed's Barber Shop. With 3 locations now, you have no reason to not always look your best. Go get a haircut, a beard trim, or even a straight razor shave. Jed's Barber Shop is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday 9 to 7, and Sunday 12 to 5. Their brand new 3rd location, it's all opened up. It's ready to go. Their address is 167 East, 900 South. It's right next to Randy's Records. They also have a location right downtown at 212 South, 700 Easton, and Sugarhouse, 2153 East, 2100 South. What I love about Jed's, you don't have to make an appointment. Just show up, put your name on the list. Here's a little pro tip, though. You can actually call up in advance.
Yeah.
Call them up, tell them to put your name on the list. That way, when you get there, chances are a spot is open.
No waiting time. Yeah.
And
I love taking my son there. It's such a great place to go get a good haircut whenever you need it.
You need to take him more often.
I do need to take him more often.
No, I remember how it was when you're younger. You don't get into get a haircut as much, right?
Like, and you don't really care.
You were like, got to get in every 3 weeks to look good, But they got a website, jedsbarbershop.com is where more information is, addresses and all of that right there online if you're driving. I do want to make a mention. If you are listening to this before July 4th, I want to invite everybody out. I'm going to be emceeing the music stage up in Sugarhouse. There's a whole slew of local bands that are going to be playing all day from 10 to 6.
It's a fun little market to visit.
And if you're following us on Facebook, if you're connected on Facebook, you probably saw the list of bands. I know Brian Bingham's got the Backyard Revival. He's been on the podcast. He's going to be playing Christian Coleman and the Blues End Band and some other good bands. But both of those guys have been on episodes of I Am Salt Lake. So I'm excited to chat with them.
Yeah, it'll be fun to just hang out with them and be around people.
Absolutely. It's going to be hot, though.
It's going to be so hot.
Got to drink lots of water.
Yeah.
Lots of water and Gatorade. Hey, that's going to do it for this episode. We love you guys. Many thanks again to Kasey Roy for coming on this episode and sharing the story. Many thanks to Amanda K. Memories, Olio, and Jed's Barbershop for sponsoring the podcast and our Patreon supporters.
You guys are amazing.
Many thanks to you, Chrissy, for putting up with me and co-hosting this podcast with me.
Thanks for letting me mix things up a little bit.
Hey, don't forget to follow our Twitter account at I Am Salt Lake. It's where we like to keep you in the loop of things going on in Salt Lake City and the surrounding area, so give us a follow. You guys have a great week. Get out and support local.
And good night, Grammy.